Anyways, let's take a look. Take a look here. This is a good video.
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What truth?
That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage. Born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
In the film The Matrix, humanity believes itself to exist within a real world, but it actually exists within a simulated reality, otherwise referred to as the Matrix, which was designed by intelligent, self-aware machines to keep mankind asleep while it uses their bodies for energy. Now, The Matrix is a fictional movie, but after spending the greater part of the last decade deeply exploring its numerous themes and philosophical inspirations, I would actually argue that it's a more accurate representation of reality than the reality that we perceive. Because we live during a time where virtually everything that we perceive as real is merely an imitation of the real. And in this video, I'll show you step by step how we're not only already living in a simulation, but more importantly, I'll show you what we can do about it. So let's begin. Reality as we know it is an anti-nature simulation.
This isn't real.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
So when explaining this concept to others, I found that the easiest way is to start by understanding the following. Nature is the true reality. Everything that is not nature, i.e. Everything created by man, is essentially two things. First, everything created by man increasingly exists as a more believable simulation of the real thing that it's replacing. Processed food is an increasingly believable simulation of real food. Pornography is an increasingly believable simulation of real sexual intimacy. Video games are an increasingly believable simulation of real games. Digital social networks are an increasingly believable simulation of real social networks, where the real people that we think we're observing and interacting with are merely the projected residual self-image of those people. We see only what they want to show us, which tends to be stuff that confirms who they believe or desire themselves to be. Even the universe itself is now being simulated in the form of a metaverse.
Your appearance now is what we call residual self-image. It is the mental projection of your digital self.
Second, everything created by man moves us further away from nature, further away from reality. Technology moves us further away from nature. I think this is pretty obvious, but what's less obvious is how removed we are from nature, even when we believe ourselves to be in nature. When we're outside, our physical bodies are usually at least 3 layers removed from the actual ground, right? Those 3 layers being the pavement, our shoes, and then our socks. And when are we even really outside? Usually for brief moments as we move from one inside to another. To schools, where we learn about everything except how to know ourselves. To work, where we generally have to do something we don't want to do to be able to buy things we don't need to impress people we don't care about. To gyms, where we simulate running on human hamster wheels to burn off calories from foods we shouldn't have eaten to pursue the appearance of health, which is, of course, much more important than actual health itself. Or to where we live, which in my case is a moderately sized box 30 floors above the ground, still not quite high enough to escape the pollution and noise below, and where what little light that does enter does so through polarized glass. Nature is real, and everything else is a simulation. And as time goes on, reality as we know it is increasingly removed from nature and increasingly constituted by everything else. The simulation helps us to escape death. All
This is the big one right here.
creatures are destined to die. However, human beings, being the only creature capable of seeing into the future, are subsequently the only creature capable of contemplating the inevitable death that awaits them. Ernest Becker, an American cultural anthropologist and author of The Denial of Death, which is one of my top 5 favorite books ever, believed that if we were to truly grasp the significance of the inevitability of death, that we'd be paralyzed by anxiety. And so to lessen our fear of death, he posits that we try to overcome it by denying in some way that it is the final destiny of man. The true reality, which I'll simply refer to as nature, is where this awareness of death resides, because it's in nature where man must accept that he is a small, trembling animal who will decay and die. In the modern age, the primary way through which we're able to deny death is by moving further away from nature and by moving further into the simulation. Let me try to explain all of this in a way that most of you will be able to relate to. You know that uncomfortable feelings we sometimes feel when it's nighttime or when we're all alone? Now, in a broad sense, we probably experience this feeling as generalized anxiety. And as soon as we feel it, we probably reach for our phone or look for some other way to distract ourselves from it. However, if we allow this feeling to go beyond that anxiety layer, we may begin to experience this feeling as the uncomfortable sensation that maybe we're behind in life, or perhaps that we're wasting our life altogether. So at this point, we'll almost certainly reach out for our phone or find some way to distract ourselves. But what would happen if we did the opposite? If instead of running from this feeling, we actually welcomed it into our consciousness with a warm smile and a glass of milk? What we'd come to realize is that this feeling, at its absolute root, is that which we most wish to deny, the knowledge that we are destined to die. The simulation.
It's all escapism. We're trying to escape. You know, just go watch a Rollo video after this. Gotta watch a Fresh and Fit video. Go to the Clips channel. Now we gotta check TikTok. Now we gotta check Tinder. Now we gotta check Hinge. Now we gotta check Bumble. Now we gotta get on Seeking. Now we gotta go have sex, you know? Now we gotta smoke some weed. Now we gotta drink some alcohol, eat some pizza, you know, go smoke hookah, play video games. Whatever we can do to try to escape from the damning inevitability of the eternal blackness that will consume us all.
Understands this, and so while many of us see these various manifestations of the simulation, social media, Netflix, video games, as means by which we can improve life and make it more enjoyable, they're also a means by which we can escape the reality of death.
It is, of course, a way of all things. You see, there is only one constant, one universal. It is the only real truth. Causality. Action, reaction, cause and effect.
Everything begins with choice.
No, wrong. Choice is an illusion created between those with power and those without. And this is the nature of the universe.
So, who controls the simulation?
This is good. I'm just going to let this part play.
At a low level, it's the media, which generally exists to both reinforce and perpetuate both existing and evolving paradigms of the simulation. At mid-level, it's the government, which establishes and reinforces the explicit rules of the simulation. At a high level, it's companies and corporations who create everything that is not nature, i.e. the material substance of the simulation. And then at the highest level, it's an increasingly smaller group of individuals who exercise increasingly greater control over corporations, governments, and media. Within the simulation, control is power, and to acquire more power at the highest levels is to perpetuate the simulation to the extent that for normal humans who don't have power, choice becomes an illusion because their future is already being decided for them.
The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it.
The simulation is a complex system of control. So to put it simply, the simulation is the world that has been pulled over our eyes to blind us from the truth that we are its slaves. We agree to participate in and obey the simulation, and in return, we are granted the means by which we can either mitigate or fully retreat, fully escape from the horrifying reality of nature itself and the inevitability of death that waits us there. This is how people come to fervently support a particular political candidate without being able to name a single one of their policies, or how they can come to label someone as ignorant or dangerous without ever having authentically engaged with that person's ideas. Nietzsche referred to this as herd mentality, which he defined as the tendency for people's behavior or beliefs to conform to those of the group to which they belong. The simulation is what creates these groups, and broadly speaking, this is how so many of us can come to feel tremendous confidence and authority in relation to something that we know absolutely nothing about. All right, guys, so
So that's that.